There are moments in life, split second, blink and you miss them moments, that carry the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. Not speeches, not press releases, not carefully crafted Instagram captions. Just a glance, a turn of the shoulder, a hand that almost reached out and didn't. Millions of people saw the clip. Most scrolled past it within seconds. But something made them stop, rewind, watch again, and then watch a third time, leaning closer to the screen, trying to name the thing they were feeling. That strange, uncomfortable recognition of a truth nobody had spoken out loud yet. It was a video of Tiger Woods and Vanessa, together, in public, captured without warning, the way the most revealing moments always are. No camera crew, no publicist hovering nearby, no prepared statement waiting in the wings. Just two human beings, two of the most watched, most scrutinized, most mythologized human beings on the planet, caught in an unguarded moment that told a story no interview ever could. Within hours, the clip had been dissected, debated, shared across every platform imaginable. Some people laughed. Some people cried. Some people typed furious opinions they'd never say to someone's face. But the professionals, the people who have spent decades studying the silent language of the human body, they went very, very quiet. Because they saw something the rest of the world almost missed. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. This is the story of what was really happening in that video. And why the body, even when the mind is desperate to hide, never, ever lies. If you've ever watched someone you love slowly become a stranger, if you've ever felt the distance between two people in the same room, drop a word in the comments right now. Just one word. Because what we're about to unpack is not just about Tiger Woods. It's about all of us. Before we enter that video frame by frame, we need to understand the two people inside it. Because context is everything. Without context, body language is just movement. With context, it becomes confession. Tiger Woods. The name alone carries a mythology so heavy it could crush a lesser person. Born in 1975 in Cypress, California, to a father who was a Green Beret and a mother of Thai Chinese descent, Eldrick Taunt Woods was introduced to golf before he could properly hold a club. By the time he was 3, he was putting on national television. By the time he was 21, he had won the Masters by 12 strokes, a margin so absurd that seasoned golf commentators simply ran out of words. He was not just a golfer. He was a phenomenon, a cultural rupture. The man who made golf cool, who put black excellence on manicured fairways that had always been coated white, who made Sunday afternoons feel like something sacred for hundreds of millions of people around the world. Tiger Woods didn't just play golf. He made the whole world hold its breath every time he stepped onto a course. But fame of that magnitude comes with a particular kind of loneliness. The kind that doesn't look like loneliness from the outside. It looks like success. It looks like confidence. It looks like a man who is everything. And then, in November 2009, the crash happened. Not metaphorical. Literal. A car. A fire hydrant. A golf club through a rear window. And in the days and weeks that followed, the mythology collapsed entirely, and what was left was something far more human, far more broken, and far more complicated than any fairy tale the sports world had constructed around him. The fallout was seismic. His marriage to Ellen Nordegren ended. His sponsors disappeared like smoke. His game, that impossibly precise, almost supernatural mastery of a sport that had defined his entire existence, began to fragment. Back surgeries, public humiliations, a DUI arrest captured on dashcam footage that millions watched with a particular kind of horror, not because they hated him, but because they recognized something in that image, a man who had lost the thread. But Tiger, as Tiger always has, came back. The 2019 Masters win, 15 years after his last major, remains one of the most emotionally charged sporting moments of the modern era. Grown men wept in the gallery. His son Charlie and daughter Sam rushed to embrace him. The world that had spent years watching him fall apart watched him, for one shining Sunday afternoon, become whole again. It was against this backdrop, this long, complicated, painfully public journey from God to broken man to redemption, that Vanessa entered the picture. Vanessa Trump, a name that carries its own gravitational weight. Model, socialite, former wife of Donald Trump Jr., with whom she shares 5 children. A woman who has lived a significant portion of her adult life in the glare of extraordinary public attention, first as a Trump, then through a quietly high-profile divorce, then as a figure navigating her own identity on the other side of a marriage that had defined her public persona for over a decade. What brought these two people together is a question the tabloids answered with the usual noise and speculation. But the more interesting question, the question that a body language expert sits with, in silence, watching that clip on loop, is not what brought them together. It's what was happening between them in that unguarded, uncurated, unstaged moment. What were their bodies saying when their mouths were saying nothing at all? The clip itself is brief, unremarkable on the surface in the way that all the most revealing things are unremarkable on the surface. They are at an event. There are people around them. Cameras are present but not intrusive. The footage has the quality of something caught, not posed. Watch it once and you'll notice the obvious things. Two attractive, well-dressed people. A public setting. The energy of a crowd around them. Nothing dramatic. Nothing explosive. And yet something made you stop scrolling. Something made the internet fracture into 1,000 competing interpretations within hours of the clip surfacing. That something, that invisible, almost electrical charge running beneath the surface of those few seconds of footage, is exactly what body language analysis is designed to illuminate. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's landmark research from the 1960s, still foundational in communication psychology today, established that in emotional communication, only 7% of meaning is carried by words. 38% is vocal tone, and 55% is body language. 55%. More than half of everything we say to each other, we say without opening our mouths. The human body is brutally honest. It evolved over millions of years to communicate in ways that predate language, to signal safety, desire, threat, comfort, withdrawal. We learned to speak relatively recently. We learned to lie with words even more recently. But the body? The body is still operating on ancient software. And ancient software doesn't have a filter. This is why the clip is so arresting. On the verbal level, nothing extraordinary is happening. On the body language level, frame by frame, in slow motion, with the sound off, an entire novel is being written. Let's start at the beginning. The first thing a body language professional observes is proxemics, the study of personal space and physical distance between people. Edward Hall, the anthropologist who coined the term, identified 4 zones: public space, social space, personal space, and intimate space. The distances that govern these zones are culturally variable, but intimate space, the zone of roughly 0 to 18 inches, is universally reserved for people we trust, love, or desire. In the clip, the distance between Tiger and Vanessa fluctuates in a way that is immediately significant. There are moments where they are within intimate space, closer than strangers, closer even than friends. And then, in response to certain microstimuli, a camera turning, a person approaching, a subtle environmental cue, the distance shifts. One of them creates space, and it is the direction of that space creation and who creates it that tells the first part of the story. Watch Tiger's feet. Body language experts will often say, forget the face. The face is the most practiced, most controlled part of the human instrument. People lie with their faces constantly. They smile when they're nervous. They hold their expression neutral when they're devastated. But the feet point toward what the body actually wants. Toward safety, toward exits, toward the person you're most drawn to in a room. Tiger's feet, in the clip, are doing something quietly extraordinary. At this point in the analysis, I want to pause on something. Because what we're describing right now, this gap between what someone shows the world and what their body is actually feeling, is something almost everyone has experienced. If you've ever stood next to someone and felt, in your bones, that something had shifted between you, even if nothing had been said, if you felt that, tap the screen. Because you already understand body language better than you think you do. Back to the clip. And now we move to the most analyzed moment. The moment that divided the internet. The 4 seconds that experts have described, in remarkably consistent language, as the pivot point of the entire interaction. Vanessa moves. It's subtle. It is the kind of movement that in real time, at normal speed, you might not consciously register. But frame by frame, it is unmistakable. She initiates a gesture of physical connection. Not dramatic. Not performative. The kind of reach that, between two people who are genuinely at ease with each other, would be so natural as to be invisible, an unconscious extension of the body towards someone it feels safe near. Tiger's response is where everything gets complicated. He doesn't pull away. That's important to note. This is not a flinch. This is not a recoil. There is no obvious discomfort in the Western, theatrical sense, no widening of the eyes, no step backward, no uncomfortable laugh. To the untrained eye, his response registers as neutral, calm, maybe even comfortable. But to someone trained in the micro-expressions first cataloged by Dr. Paul Ekman, the involuntary, fleeting facial movements that last between 1/15th and 1/25th of a second and cannot be consciously controlled, something else is visible. Something that, once named, recontextualizes everything that came before and after. It is not comfort. It is management. There is a crucial difference between those two states, and the body knows it even when the mind doesn't. Comfort is passive. Comfort is the absence of effort. You are comfortable when you are not trying to be anything. Management, by contrast, is active. It is the subtle, constant labor of curating how you appear, of holding the face steady, of controlling the shoulders, of deciding in real time how much of yourself to allow into a moment. Tiger Woods has spent 50 years being watched. He learned to manage his body under pressure before most people learn to ride a bicycle. On a golf course, this management is transcendent. It is literally part of what makes him one of the greatest athletes in human history. The ability to perform with complete control under the most extreme psychological pressure imaginable. To hold still when everything in you is screaming. But love is not a golf course. Intimacy is not a leaderboard. And the strategies that make a champion in one arena can become walls in another. What the clip shows, what the body language reveals, is a man in the presence of someone who clearly feels something significant, navigating that feeling with the same tool set he uses to manage a 4-foot putt with a major championship on the line. Precise, controlled, technically flawless, and completely, heartbreakingly defended. Now look at Vanessa. Because this is where the story becomes something beyond celebrity gossip, beyond tabloid speculation, beyond the comfortable distance of watching someone else's life as entertainment. This is where it becomes something recognizable, something that might make you catch your breath a little. Vanessa's body language in the clip is, in a word, open. Not reckless, not desperate. Open in the way that requires courage, the quiet, vulnerable, terrifying courage of a person who has decided, consciously or not, to let someone see them. After a very public dissolution of a very long marriage. After years of rebuilding. After the slow, hard work of figuring out who you are when the identity you built around someone else is no longer available. Her posture is oriented toward him. Not just her feet. Her whole torso, the most honest part of the body, the part we instinctively protect when we feel threatened, and open when we feel safe. Her shoulders are not raised in the defensive hunch of anxiety. Her chin is not tucked in the self-protective gesture of someone braced for impact. She is, in the language of the body, present. And that presence, next to Tiger's magnificent, aching management, creates a contrast so sharp it cuts. Body language experts who have commented on the clip have used different technical vocabularies but arrived at the same essential conclusion. This is not a video about two people in a simple, easy, mutually comfortable connection. This is a video about two people who are, perhaps, at very different stages of the same journey. One of them has arrived at a place of openness. The other is still, learning how to unlock the door. Here's a question worth sitting with. And I'm asking this genuinely, not rhetorically. Do you think someone who has been hurt at the level Tiger Woods has been hurt, publicly, repeatedly, globally, can ever fully relearn how to be open? Drop your honest thoughts below. Not judgment, not a hot take. Your real, human opinion. Because this question is bigger than Tiger. It's about all of us who have ever built walls so high that even we can't see over them anymore. To understand what the clip is really showing, you have to understand the concept of emotional availability and how trauma, specifically public trauma, specifically the kind of exposure Tiger has endured, rewires the nervous system's relationship with vulnerability. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, whose landmark work on trauma has reshaped how psychologists understand the body's role in emotional healing, describes what he calls the body keeping the score. The idea, supported now by decades of neuroscience, is that trauma is not stored primarily in the mind. It is stored in the body, in the nervous system. in the reflexive, pre-conscious responses that happen before the thinking brain has time to intervene. Tiger Woods did not just experience a personal scandal in 2009. He experienced the complete, global, instantaneous dismantling of a carefully constructed identity in front of hundreds of millions of people. Every affair, every name, every text message, every humiliating detail served up daily in the news cycle for months. There is no training for that. There is no way to prepare the nervous system for what it means to be that exposed. And the nervous system remembers. Long after the conscious mind has processed and rationalized and moved forward, the body holds the memory of what it felt like to be that vulnerable and does everything in its power to ensure it never feels that way again. This is not weakness. This is biology. This is the ancient, protective intelligence of a body that has decided, based on experience, that openness equals danger. This is what the clip is showing. Not indifference, not disrespect, not the absence of feeling. Quite possibly the opposite of all those things. What the clip is showing is a man whose body has become so good at protecting him that it protects him even when he may not want to be protected. Even when, standing next to someone warm and open and present, the most human part of him might be trying desperately to reach back. There is a specific micro-expression that appears, briefly, in the clip. It lasts less than a second. Many viewers won't notice it consciously, but they feel it. It's part of why the clip generates the emotional response it does, why people watch it and can't quite articulate what they're feeling, only that they're feeling something. It appears in Tiger's eyes, just for a moment, in the space between the management and the next managed expression. Body language researchers call it a flash of longing. It is one of the most heartbreaking expressions the human face can produce, precisely because it is involuntary, because it bypasses everything the conscious mind is trying to control, because it is the authentic self, breaking through the wall for just a fraction of a second before the wall rebuilds itself. It says, I see you. I know what you're offering. I don't know how to take it. And then it's gone out if this story is landing somewhere deep today. If you're watching this and feeling something you didn't expect to feel about two people you've only ever known through screens, that feeling is worth something. That feeling is the whole point. Give it a moment of recognition. The broader conversation happening around this clip, and it is a genuine, substantive conversation happening in psychology circles and relationship counseling rooms and late-night phone calls between friends who have experienced something similar, is about what healing actually looks like. Not the Instagram version, the real version, the complicated, non-linear, sometimes invisible version. We have a cultural narrative about healing that is dangerously simple. You get hurt. You process. You emerge transformed and open and ready. A butterfly. Clean. New. The story has a clear arc. But the reality of healing from deep, identity-level wounds is nothing like that. It is not linear. It is not visible. And it is not a destination you arrive at and stay at permanently. It is something you practice, imperfectly, in real time, in actual moments with actual people, getting it wrong in ways you don't always recognize until much later. The clip captures one of those real-time moments. And what makes it so affecting, what makes it impossible to watch without feeling something, is not the failure of it, if that's what it is. It's the humanness of it. The recognizable, relatable, desperately familiar image of someone trying, in their own limited and defended way, to be present in a moment that requires more of them than they currently know how to give. That is not a Tiger Woods story. That is a human story. And most of us, if we're honest, if we let ourselves sit with that honesty for more than a second before we reach for our phones and the comfortable numbness of the scroll, most of us have been in one or both positions in that clip. The one who reached, or the one who managed. But there's a final layer to this analysis. One that the initial wave of commentary largely missed because it required stepping back far enough to see the whole frame, not just the subjects in the center of it. Watch what happens at the edges of the clip. Not Tiger, not Vanessa, the people around them. Body language does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in a social ecology, a constant, invisible negotiation between individuals and the groups they inhabit. And the people around Tiger and Vanessa in this clip are themselves doing something revealing, something that speaks to the peculiar, distorting pressure cooker that is celebrity existence and how it shapes the intimate lives of the people inside it. There is a visible, almost choreographic awareness among the people nearby. a careful management of gaze direction, an almost architectural arrangement of bodies that creates both proximity and distance from Tiger and Vanessa simultaneously. The people around them are simultaneously present and absent, physically close, emotionally recused, offering the performance of normalcy while maintaining the hypervigilance of people who understand that they are sharing space with someone who is always, inescapably, being watched. This is the ecosystem Tiger has inhabited for 50 years. An ecosystem in which normal human moments, a spontaneous gesture, an unguarded expression, a natural physical connection between two people immediately become watched, analyzed, and fed into the cultural machine. Think about what that does to a person's ability to be spontaneous, to be natural, to allow the body to do what bodies do when they feel safe. Reach toward warmth without first calculating the exposure risk of the reach. The watchers create the wall as much as the watched builds it. And this, in the end, might be the most important thing the clip reveals. Not a statement about Tiger's feelings for Vanessa, not a verdict on their relationship, whatever it is, or was, or may become, but a meditation on the price of that particular kind of fame. The way it colonizes even the most private interior spaces. The way it trains the nervous system to treat every authentic moment as a potential liability. Tiger Woods has given the world extraordinary gifts. He has made people feel things watching a man hit a golf ball that they did not expect to feel. He has broken barriers that needed breaking. He has demonstrated what is possible when human potential is developed with absolute dedication and will. But the clip, this small, accidental, unremarkable 4-second window into a private moment, suggests that the cost of that gift has been steep. Steeper, perhaps, than any public accounting has yet captured, not in the tabloid sense. In the quieter, harder, more private sense of a man who has become so fluent in the language of performance that the language of genuine presence has become, in some ways, a foreign tongue. Whether that changes, whether the wall comes down, whether the flash of longing in those eyes finds its way into an open hand, is not something a body language analysis can tell you. That part of the story belongs to him. And to whatever moments follow this one, uncaptured, unseen, in the unfiltered privacy of a life that, despite everything, is still being lived. What we can say, what the body always, unfailingly, eventually says, is that the hunger for connection is still there, under the management, under the protection, under 50 years of performance and pain and rebuilding. It is still there, in a fraction of a second, in a pair of eyes, in a flash of longing that the camera caught before the wall could rebuild itself. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. If this documentary reached something in you, if it made you think about your own walls, your own defended places, the moments you managed when you might have let yourself feel, then this channel exists for you. Not for celebrities, for the human truths that celebrity stories, at their best, illuminate. Subscribe if you want more stories told this way, with patience, with depth, with the belief that understanding human behavior is one of the most important and most underrated forms of empathy we have. Because the body never lies, and neither does this channel.